Hey, everybody. It is the summer of surrender, and I am Delilah Bartlett. This is Delilah's Downloads. You guys know me, and if you don't, welcome to Delilah's Downloads. We're really here just trying to help people live their best life. If you want to know more about me, you can visit DelilahBartlett.com. But it is summer, and summer of surrender is what's been put on my heart. A lot of times we look for great things to happen in our lives, but we don't talk about maybe the valley of the mountaintops. And so this summer I am endeavoring to bring two topics to everyone, one around radical obedience and the other around suffering and what's necessary in seasons of suffering. But we are talking today about radical obedience. And I have a good friend and a phenomenal woman joining us today to help talk about this conversation. I'm going to ask her to say a little bit about herself, and then I'm going to get into what we're going to talk about. Favor, welcome, welcome.
Hey, welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you, woman of God. As I call you, I this is truly an honor to be here with you. And I've admired you so much in the distance until now. Hey, I feel I'm right at your face. So I'm super excited. My name is Favor Wazota Aghu, and a mother of five boys, ranging from 23 to 14-year-old twins.
Oh my.
And I'm a wife, I'm a believer, I'm everything in between. And outside of home, we mothers who do everything, right? So,
Yeah.
and I'm a revenue circle specialist in terms of career wise. And I'll say I'm doing my little bit into the kingdom. So I'm a kingdom builder. So I think that's all I can say now about myself. So I'm super
Oh,
excited to be here.
all you can say. I mean, Favor, I think you had the people at, you're a mom of five boys.
Hmm.
Two are the younger two are twins. I mean, that was impressive in itself. And the fact that you're working outside of the home, you have a career, and to your point about being a kingdom builder. If you guys are, and I know Favor is probably going to say something about how she builds in the kingdom during this conversation, but please hold on tight, everybody, and be ready to find out how you can follow the movement of Favor, because she is an absolute movement. But today we're going to talk a little bit about radical obedience. But before we
Hmm.
jump into it, I want to share with everybody why we're talking about radical obedience.
Hmm.
Again, these are topics that we don't talk a lot about in the faith, in the kingdom.
Hmm.
We talk about blessings and things like that, but no one really unpacks the need for obedience, the cost of obedience, because it costs us
Hmm.
something to be obedient, and then the other side, the fruit of the obedience. And so really want to normalize that conversation and want to do it today through the lens of Favor, and just have her unpack what obedience kind of means to her. And so I think, Favor, we're going to jump in right there with that first
Okay.
question. Just what does obedience mean to you, either naturally, spiritually, however you want to share it with us?
Yeah, so thank you for that great question because that's something that everyone, if I use the word believers, struggle with thinking, am I being obedient to God? Or did I hear God well? Or am I really doing the right thing? To me, obedience is just a posture of trust and surrender to God. A posture such that, okay, I just make up my mind to do it. I just trust Him because He asked me to do what I'm doing. I'm just going to do an absolute surrender, not knowing what the future holds, not knowing what is next, or not knowing what to do or how to start in some instances. I just trust Him because He asked me to do it. So spiritually, I'll say, because when you're being obedient to God, I feel that it's an act of worship to God.
Ooh.
Because when you surrender all to God, it's like you're giving, it's like a state of abandonment to God, a state of giving it all, giving your all to Him, knowing that I don't know the answers, but someone knows it all. So just like if I give an instance talking about spiritual, Abraham, he's like, hey, take my child, take this child that I've given you, this child you've waited for, is it how many decades for?
Come on,
Go
Favor.
sacrifice. Go
Yeah,
sacrifice. I'm like, in my world now, I'll be like, God, is that really you?
exactly.
So, but because if you read through that scripture, because Abraham knew God
Yeah,
as the provider,
yeah.
he took the step. And at the end of it, we see what God did with that. So, um,
I think that's absolutely phenomenal. And I'm going to get into this second question of asking you to share a little bit about a time that you stepped out in radical obedience. But before we get there, I think
mhm,
what you just said is really phenomenal on how Abraham knew God as a provider. I
mhm,
think it's equally that he knew the voice of God because he
mm,
had spent time with God.
yeah.
And sometimes people think it's like, well, how do I know God? And it's like it's not that
Mhm,
like spend time with him, know the voice of God. I think
mhm,
Abraham did.
yeah.
And and when I
That's true. That's
yeah,
true. Because
yeah,
and that takes your relationship with God. Because if I'm with you and you call me, we talk on the phone constantly. The next time I pick up the phone call from you, I'm not going to say, who is that? I'm going to say, hey, Miss Delilah, hey,
yeah,
woman of God, because I'm constantly in tune with you, knowing your voice, recognizing your voice. It won't be a surprise or a second guess to ask who is on the other line. And
that's
that was
good.
what it just mentioned. A deeper relationship can cultivate that state of knowing who owns that and having that trust that,
Yeah,
okay, I think I can trust this voice that
yeah.
is
I
telling
know
me
the
to do
voice and
this.
I
Yeah.
can trust it.
Yeah.
That's good. And so let's talk about a moment when you've heard that voice and a radical step of obedience. And I call it radical because we have daily acts of
Mm-hmm.
obedience, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we are to
Mm-hmm.
be obedient to that small, still voice throughout the day. And so I think it all is a level of radical, but sometimes it is big and it feels like insurmountable and it's like, ah. And so tell us about a time where you've had to step out in like radical obedience.
Yeah. So I'm sure, I mean, everybody, if you follow me on Facebook, even though I don't post a lot about it, but the Jukun Woman is something that really talked my heart. The Jukun Woman is an organization that I started in 2018, to be precise, April of 2018 in Nigeria. And coming from Nigeria, from the northern part of Nigeria, so I'm from Taraba. So and I know this is worldwide, the barriers that women face in
Mm,
attending to where God has ordained for them to attend, in fulfilling their destiny, if I use the word,
sure.
or um, I mean, making yourself to be able to attaining your potential.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
always there's
Worldwide
always
problem. Yeah,
yeah, there's that barrier all the time. But
yeah.
I think I mean, I will be bold to say it, in Nigeria and in my part of the world, there's like it's a step more than it's
Harder.
expected in the other world. It's
Yeah.
more backward. Now it's getting better because we are speaking, we are raising our voices, and they are understanding that we are not in the control tug of war with anybody, or a control or a leadership, or like, oh, I want to take over
Take
kind of
over.
a thing.
Right.
Yeah,
It's more the expression of adding to what's going on. And this
exactly.
radical step of obedience you took was Jukun
Hmm.
Woman back in 2018.
Yes. So I it was just one day I will lament, oh, this, I hate this. I don't like what this is happening. And then
Mm.
I was speaking to that with my husband, and he's like, then what are you going to do about it? I'm like, well, I don't know. And the way it all started, I'm like, okay, he just said, just take a step, just do it. And then I was just getting into Facebook, and he just said, okay, just start it. And I heard it within me. And like we just said earlier, when it's an instruction for you to take a step, you will
Mm.
know that is not your own thinking, that's not your thought, that's not your own voice. But I took the step to start the Jukun Woman on Facebook, because I wasn't on ground in Nigeria. I couldn't make any changes, but I'm like,
Yeah.
let me start on Facebook. And I started open a Facebook group. He's like, what do you want to name it? I'm like, I have no idea. So I start telling him what I want that Jukun Woman to look like. And that is why I made it the Jukun Woman, to make it personalized to you.
Yeah.
Make
To
it an individual, not a group, because we are always hiding behind the groups, hiding
woman.
behind our children, our
Yeah.
husbands. So that was a step I took, and I didn't know how it was going to start, how I was going to fund for it, how I was going to do all that it takes, or even influence the women.
Sure.
But guess what? From like nothing, and now it's become a movement, like Ms. Delilah said, it's become a movement. And yes, was there a cost? Yes, because when I begin to take it off the social media into the public place, it costs money, it costs a
Yeah.
lot of sacrifices. But
And your
when
time and your
right,
energy and
that
the thought
that
that people may look at you like, well, who is she and what is this she's doing? Right?
thank
That
you. Yes,
yeah.
yes. And coming from where I'm coming from, you get a lot of that. What is she trying to do? Is she trying to? I remember someone tell me, I'm teaching the women to be stubborn to their husbands.
Oh no. It's like,
And
no, I'm trying to teach the women to be their full potential in service to the kingdom and their husband.
yes, and truth, depending on what lenses whoever is on the other side, when truth comes across to the person that is not for the truth, it will come across as being being
Yeah.
rebellious. It will come
Yeah.
across as you are kicking against the norm. And I was ready for it. So I got all that everybody else can. It took my time, because with the time difference over here is like 6 hours. And when the time clock forward and backward, it becomes 7 hours. So sometimes I'm up at 2 a.m. just to meet up with their time in
Wow.
Nigeria. So it took a lot.
Yeah.
And like we said, radical obedience, or you trying to obey what God called you to, there are a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of sacrifices.
Hmm.
In my experience, there's quite a bit of fruit as well. And so
Yes.
can you talk a little bit about what has been the impact of your decision to be radically obedient to God?
Mhm.
What has happened basically as a result of your obedience?
Oh, it's amazing. When I look back now, I'm like, oh Lord, thank you that I took the step to do what I'm doing. Because when I started the Facebook, I tried to tag a lot of people. So I had like 300 people like in the group. But right now we're 3.4, almost 3.5 thousand people in the group.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that is, yes, and that is just on Facebook. I have a WhatsApp group that I created. We have a lot of them there. It's amazing what is going on. And with the activities we're doing, with the programs we're organizing, is making a lot of impact. There's a lot of mindset shift. And like, I just celebrated my 50th birthday. When I was reading some of the posts that these women were, I'm like, oh, so this thing is impacting them like this, I didn't even know.
Wow.
So the fruit is massive, such that when I think about the fruit, I don't mind staying up to 3 a.m. and I have an 1 hour sleep, and I still get up and go to work the next morning. So coffee helps me a lot.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
But
have my
yeah,
cup here this morning. Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
fruit, the fruit, the
Lives are
result,
shifting.
it's mind
Communities
blowing.
are shifting
Yes, yes.
because of
And
an act of radical obedience.
yes, yes. I now have a community that if I step home now, it doesn't matter what I want to do. I know I have a tribe around me, that
Yeah.
I have a tribe of like-minded women, that their mindset is changing to know that, you know what, We shouldn't let anyone define who we become, because God's seed is in us, His life is in us, His
Mm,
capabilities are in us.
hmm.
He made us geniuses, and He made us human before we're even women, gender or male. We are
Sure.
human in the general
Mankind,
note. So we
humankind.
shouldn't see ourselves in anybody else's lenses. We
Wow.
see ourselves through God's lenses, which He says we are able, we
Yeah.
can, and we
Yeah.
can become. So that in itself, it warms my heart. So um,
there's so many things that I can see as fruit from Jukun Woman. Um,
mhm,
your radical obedience to shift and create Jukun Woman so that the woman can be impacted, and then all of the multiplier. I was talking with another young lady about the
mhm,
multiplying factor that we'll never even see, that you'll never even see.
mhm,
You'll never be
exactly.
able to quantify how you've
Mhm,
impacted these women who've
mhm,
impacted these women who've
mhm,
impacted these women. Like you'll never see it, but I know some of the things that I'm seeing as I follow Jukun Woman on Facebook. Um,
mhm,
is also, the shift to the individual, but I just want to touch just a tad on the impact of the community.
mhm,
This economic power that is happening with
mhm,
women creating businesses, right?
mhm,
Because of this education, empowerment, and unity that you're bringing together through the Juco Woman, I think it's
mhm.
absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you're creating economic shift inside of
Amen.
region of Nigeria, favored through a
Yes,
radical step of obedience. I mean, I
that's
don't think you've had any formal training or anything that would say, "Oh, I'm qualified to do what God is saying
mm-mm,
to do."
mm-mm. And that is one thing that I always say. God honors obedience, because He says it that He equips those He called, and it must not be like whatever we're talking about. Must not be preaching the gospel, standing on the pulpit, holding your Bible, being on the street evangelizing, but kingdom business.
Yes,
God's kingdom. What defines God's kingdom? Anything that brings good to the other person. To me, you're doing kingdom work,
I love it.
because you are affecting the other life positively for God, imputing into them God's character, God's love, God's ability, making them know they are worthy. How much
Yeah,
more of that? They are
yeah.
worthy of His love. Such that, like you mentioned, there was this instance. So I did in 2023, we did a STEM program. It was amazing. We have almost all the schools, secondary. So in Nigeria, we call it secondary school, but here it's like high school and middle school.
Okay.
So we got them all together. And at that time, the economy nationwide was tough. So, and sometimes when I'm doing these programs, the women, they chip in, they like contribute their
Yeah.
quarter, little here, little there. But during that period, I didn't want to ask, because I know the economy wasn't on the. So I felt it was it was insensitive of me to start asking them, hey, contribute. So I took the burden on my own. But
Wow.
you know what happened? What came out of that STEM program? A lot of the girls, we have over 500 girls in
Yeah.
attendance, and we have over 50 volunteers that had agreed to be mentors. And this, because there's this cliche, will I call it, like they felt is, I feel it's a myth that sciences are for men. The
Yeah.
women, you don't have the
Yeah.
brain to
No
do
STEM.
science.
No STEM for women. Yeah. No. Yes, we're
Yeah.
very smart. Yeah.
So yeah, so my push and my how do I call it? My clarion call is, hey, you got a brain, you can do it. Come
Yeah.
out and become the doctor, become the engineer, become
Engineer,
the whatever
mathematician, whatever.
you
Yeah.
want to do. And guess what? Some of those girls that they sign up to become mentors, they have just graduated from college. And she agreed. I told her, she's like, oh, I don't have any experience. I'm like, come in and do it. We have a guide for you.
Yeah.
And guess what she's doing? She's a teacher in uh, an elementary school. She created a STEM club.
Wow.
Guess where that starts from? It's like from her being a mentor
Yes,
volunteer
yes,
in the
yes,
STEM program because we
yes,
organized a 1 year mentorship for the STEM girls.
yeah,
And now she's in her school. They do it annually. She started a STEM. So that is the multiplier effect we were talking about.
yeah.
She didn't ask if she should do it.
Ex-
She just went ahead and did it. And she
Yes.
sent me videos. I was screaming and super
Oh,
excited. I told her,
beautiful.
so she's doing amazing. Every year now they call it career day.
Mm,
So a STEM career choices. So
career day.
they make
Yeah.
the young kids dress up in whatever career, like in the STEM, and
Yes, yes.
they demonstrate. And these are pupils like 7, 8, 9, 10 year old. What
Oh,
is the
wow.
best moment to let them know, hey, you don't
Yes.
have to have a
To nurture that feeling, to nurture that mindset, to nurture
exactly.
that potential.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that's it. So
That's
it's
phenomenal.
really amazing. Yeah, it's
That's
amazing.
phenomenal. And her radical step of obedience to say, okay, the seed that is in here, I'm gonna then now sow
Hmm.
to others, and these children that will grow up that you may never hear from, that they
Yeah.
may do the same. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And thank you for walking us through that, Favor. I
Hmm.
also I wanted to I was going to say something, but I'm just going to ask the question. And so
Hmm.
this step of obedience, and I think we touched on a little bit with Abraham and the voice of God and knowing his voice, but how do how did this radical step of obedience shape your ability to have future obedience?
Yeah.
Because I think as we start to be obedient,
Hmm.
there's something in there.
Yes, there is. Like I said earlier, God always honors obedience, right? All he wants you to do is just to say yes to him. You don't have to be perfect. God is not looking for perfection.
Yeah,
He's just looking for your yes. Like I heard someone simply as that. He doesn't want you to be, oh, every note must touch. You must have all the resources. You must have everything you need before you start. No, all he needs is a yes. And he takes care of it. And what that teaches me about God, he's faithful.
yeah, yeah,
He is always faithful. And faithful in the sense that, like we said earlier, you can only know he's faithful if you know you're connected to him and you know him, you know his character.
yeah,
That speaks to his character for me. When you're obedient to God, you the steps that I've taken shows me that God is always good, because it takes me back to his character, knowing
yeah,
that he's good, knowing that he's faithful, knowing that he always got my back no matter what,
yeah.
knowing that he will always look out for my good. That just tells me, hey, just say yes to it, because
Yeah,
he won't leave you hanging.
I love that. I love that.
So,
So you've gotten to know God's character, you trust his character, how
mhm,
he's shown up in your life before
mhm,
encourages you that, for future steps of obedience, that
mhm.
my answer here should be yes because of who he has proven himself to be in the other
Absolutely,
instance. Oh, I love that.
absolutely,
I love that.
absolutely. Mhm.
Favor, let me ask you, because we did endeavor to keep this kind of short because we know people are very busy and they may not
Mhm,
be able to watch a long video. Um,
mhm,
and so as we wrap up,
mhm,
what would you say? What would be a word of encouragement? Um, you know, just think about, right. We have people listening, we have women listening, and we have men listening too, who God may be calling them to do something that
mhm,
they don't feel qualified for, that they don't see. Well, how do I have the time to do it? All the stuff.
mhm,
What encouragement or wisdom would you share with somebody who's being called to obey, but
mhm.
is some reason being hesitant?
I will
What would
say
you
to you, yeah, I'll say to you, like Joyce Meyer always say, do it afraid.
She says that.
So
She
do it afraid, because being obedient or taking a step is not like there is no fear or there's no doubt, because we're human, right? But like I said earlier, piggyback on that, God doesn't want your perfection. He just wants you to say yes to it. So my encouragement for you today is You don't have to know all the details. You don't have to know where the end goes or how the fruit is going to come about or how everything is going to pan out, because some of us want to see the beginning from the end, like we are alpha and omegas, right?
Yes.
But you know what? You just have to trust the one who knows it.
And
Just
take,
trust the one who does, because you don't know all the details, but he knows the details because he called you into it. He wants you to do it. So just trust him that, hey, I'm saying yes. So just do what you want to do. And he will walk through it. And
yeah,
he's always faithful. He equips those he calls, either in the kingdom business, directly on the pulpit, or outside of the pulpit, doing his work. At the end of it, he says, what? Well done, faithful servant, right? I
love it.
was sick, you visited me. I was hungry, you fed me. You didn't feed physical food on the pulpit, but you went on the streets of Houston. You went on the street and feeding the homeless. That is what all this is about. Do it on the pulpit or do it outside of the pulpit is all kingdom related. So find where God is tugging your heart to do something and just do it. Like Miss Delilah will always say, just take the step.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just take a
Just
step
take the
in
step.
and, and,
Mm-hmm.
and do it. Favor, this has been an absolute pleasure. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much that you've done. I think we could talk pretty much forever, but I'm very encouraged and hopeful that the
Mm-hmm.
listeners have been provoked to
Mm-hmm.
action, and they also are encouraged. I would pray that the people would be encouraged to know that they're not alone. That
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable feeling that someone may be feeling. The people who are doing things out here in the world have felt that way too. And to
Mm-hmm.
Favor's great advice and wisdom, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. Give God your yes. So Favor, thank you so much for joining
Mm-hmm.
us.
Thank you too. Thank you so much, Miss Delilah. I appreciate this moment.
Oh,
Thank
for
you.
sure. And so y'all
Mm-hmm.
join us for the rest of Summer of Surrender. We're going to talk a little bit more about radical obedience, and in weeks to come, we're going to get into suffering, because like it's not always unicorn and rainbows in the kingdom.
Oh,
And
yes.
sometimes we're like, oh, praise the Lord. Like we want to act like it is, but it's not. And so we are going to have that conversation too. But thank you again, Favor, for being
Mm-hmm.
here. Y'all
Mm-hmm. Thank
join us
you.
next time. And
Mm-hmm.
let's just go ahead and get big.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to
Thank
y'all later.
you.